Okay, guys, so we are going through the SHRP protocol. Okay, just a second. Let me plug my pointer. Okay, so we are going with the SHRP topic, which is called as first hop redundancy protocol, and it consists of three major topic: HSRP, VRRP, and GLBP. Okay, the first two are meant to work as a active standby state. The first two protocol, HSRP and VRRP, they work on a model active and standby. That means one of the device is going to serve the traffic and the second one is going to be standby mode until or unless this goes down and the re-election happen, and then this takes up the role of active. Okay. GLBP is used for load sharing when you can have both of your devices serve the traffic. Okay. So we will go across each one of them. From our previous class, we have completed HSRP version 1. Okay. So in today's class, I'll take it forward. I'll go with V2 first, and then we will discuss about VRRP, and might be in the next class we will go up with GLBP. Now, for someone who is joining the class for the first time, let me tell you where do we use this protocols. Okay. So the best practice always say, the best network practice always say that don't rely on a single device or a single point of contact. Okay. So let's say if this is a network enterprise, let's say I have a PC user, I have a Cisco switch, I have a Cisco router, and which connects to ISP. Okay. So the drawback of this kind of design or a network design is they are all falling under a single standalone point of failure. Okay. If let's say if this box goes down for some reason, your user is disconnected, the user is isolated from the internet connectivity. Okay. Might be this user was sharing some file to a customer, right? Now this brings up the network or the protection loss due to the bad network design that you have in your enterprise. So what is the best practice? The best practice is let's have some redundancy. So I would connect an extra device here, I would connect a extra router here, and similar way, instead of relying on single ISP, I would have another ISP acting as a backup uh, ISP point, or a backup ISP. Okay. So now what happens in case this goes down, we still have the second device which can take up the role of forwarding the packet, and we still have the connectivity. Okay. So how is HSRP and VRRP going to help us? So let's say I have two routers. Okay. And the routers are connecting to internet service provider, and let's say I have a switch and the switch is connected to a PC user. So let's say by default the packet are being taken up by router 1. Okay, let's say the gateway or a router 1 is forwarding the packet. Okay, so his data will be sent to the switch is going to switch the packet to the router, and router is going to take it forward to ISP. Now for some reason, let's say this goes down. So what is going to happen? Your packet is still pointing towards this gateway, and your packet is still getting dropped. The reason is you have lost the connectivity and there is no way the packet can go further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have some redundancy protocol enabled. So I'm making use of HSRP. So how do HSRP work is I'm going to create some virtual IP address, and as soon as I have a HSRP started up, it's going to bring up a MAC address. Okay, so this MAC address will be loaded up on this switch, and this virtual IP will be the gateway, now the new gateway for the computer to send the packet. Okay, So earlier the PCs were sending to the physical IP. So let's say the physical interface IP is 1.1.1.1, and let's say the physical interface IP over here is 1.1.2. Now this used to be the gateway for a computer. Okay, but once you bring up HSRP, you're no longer going to have your physical interface. Okay, you're going to use your virtual IP. Let's say now the gateway becomes 1.1.1.3, which is neither this interface, neither this interface. So you're going to send a, you're just going to forward something over on this. Okay, and over on the switch you have the HSRP MAC address. Now the MAC address know whom to send, whether shall I send to this router 1 or shall I send to this. Okay, so that's how the decision would be made up. In case of any failover, let's say this is down, now the switch will remove the entry which is pointing to the R1, and it would make a new entry pointing towards R2. So this is one benefit of having HSRP on the LAN side, local area network. Now at the same time, let's say on a ISP side, okay, so let's say if this interface for some reason goes down, so by default your packets are pointing on this direction. Okay, let's assume the packets are being pointing to this direction, but this is down, right? Now that could lead to outage. Okay, but thanks to HSRP have an additional feature where it can track the object. So what are we going to do is we are going to enable some tracking object on this interface. So as soon as this goes down, the tracking gets enabled automatically, and it's going to say that this router has an interface down, and let's re-elect, and now this becomes standby and this router becomes active, and your packet will now start moving on this direction. So HSRP as all together, it will take care of LAN as well as WAN. Okay, so let's say you enabled HSRP, it's going to take care of your LAN traffic or the LAN direction. Also, it's going to take care of your WAN direction. Okay, in case of any failover over on the WAN, it's your HSRP who will re-elect or reconvergence, and the election will now make this as a active device. So your packet will be forwarded on this, and the traffic will be going out of this. Okay, so this is a general behavior of HSRP and VRRP. Now we learned about the configurations. How do the packets flow across on HSRP? What is the difference between version 1 and version 2? So that's something which we need to check. And okay, so let's walk through the lab, and let's also get this done practically. So I have my topology started up. So I was considering these devices. Okay, and I have the console of the routers. So I have console for router 19, and as well as I have a console for router 20. Okay, by default, how is the traffic flowing? So let's check it out. So my PC 10 has a gateway of 10.1. So 10.1 is a physical interface IP. That's nothing but it's a IP address of this interface. So I have not configured HSRP yet. I just want to show you pre packet flow, and once you configure HSRP, the post configuration packet flow I just want to show you. Okay, so let's ping one of the IP. Let's ping 8.8.8. So I believe this packet is flowing in this direction. Okay, that's a default behavior because my gateway is pointing to dot 1, so it should forward to dot 1. Okay, now the issue is if this physical interface goes down all of a sudden, if this physical interface is going down. So let me bring it down. Okay, do we still have a packet flowing? No, the packet got stuck. Now we are isolated. Now there is a outage happening here. My users or my server, it doesn't have any connection to the internet. Okay, now this is where you need HSRP. If let's say you have HSRP enabled, the election would have happened and your traffic would have been taken up on a different path. Okay, so let's do that. So let's configure HSRP and let's analyze the packet flow. Okay, so over on interface 1.0 I'm going to enable HSRP. The command is HSRP and I need to give some group number. So let's say for VLAN 1 I'm going to give group number to be 1. And what is the IP address? Now it's asking me for an virtual IP address. So let's make use of this IP that is mentioned over on my screen. Okay, so this act as a virtual IP for VLAN 1. Let's make use of preempts. Now you know what is preempts, right? Let's go with some priority. Let's go with priority 1110. So by default the priority for HSRP is 100. Let's go with 110 because I want this device to be the active device for VLAN 1. Okay, so just 3 commands which should bring up the HSRP. Okay, so let me just write it over here. It would be easier for me to copy paste. Okay, so standby 1, let's define the IP address. Standby 1 preempts. Standby 1 priority 1110. So this will go on the first interface. Okay, so similar way I have to configure it for VLAN 40 as well. So that's over on sub interface dot 40 and the IP address becomes 172.16.40.254. That's again printed over on my screen. Let's give a priority 110. So let's copy this and let's bring it over here. Okay, and similar thing will be put up on the second device, but we just need to take down the priority because by default the priority would be 100. So let's remove priority and put those other remaining commands over here. Fine. Okay, so let's verify the HSRP status now. Okay, okay, so this has taken the active role and so the VLAN 40, the HSRP 40 group 40 has already taken up the active role. And let's see from the second device point of view. Okay, so this becomes active local. So this is fine. I feel this configuration is not proper for 1.1. Okay, so let me once quickly verify what's not over here. Okay, it's under shutdown mode. So let's bring up that. Okay, so the election have been successfully done. So it's going through the HSRP states. So what are the HSRP states that we learned in the last class? It's init, listen, speak, standby, and active. So these are the states which HSRP will go through before it elect itself as standby or a active role. Okay, now it has taken up the active role. So this device with this router Moscow R19 becomes an active for VLAN 1 as well as for VLAN 40. Okay, at the same time the second device becomes a standby for both the VLANs. Now let's play around with the packet flow. So to achieve any sorts of HSRP behavior, in order to test the HSRP traffic behavior, make sure you edit the gateway now. Okay, so your gateway should not point to any physical interface. It should point to the HSRP virtual IP. So I'm going to make it as 254. Okay. So where is 254? Basically 254 is configured on both the routers. As of now, this has taken up the active role because of the highest priority. If this goes down, the re-election happen and then this router takes up the active role. So let's see that behavior. So let me just power off this instance because I just changed the IP address. Whenever you do any changes with the IP address, you need to stop and start that instance, okay, to take up the new configuration. Okay, so let's give a test. Let's ping one of the IP. I have reachability. Let's check it out on which direction is this packet flowing. So it's taking over on 10.1. 10.1 is nothing but over this. Okay. So your packet is flowing across on this direction. So that is a known behavior. The reason is this router is acting as active at this moment. Okay. Because of the 110 priority that we configured here. Now let's say for some reason this is down. So I'll bring down the interface. So let's say over on the router 19, let's bring down, okay, and let's give it try now. Let's first ping. I still have the reachability. What about trace route? Let's find out how is the traffic going now. So now it took the second path, that is 10.2, and where is 10.2 configured? It's configured here. So now the traffic is flowing across in this direction. So this is a HSRP behavior. Okay, so it's giving you redundancy in your network design. So in let's say in a non HSRP scenario, the gateways were pointed up to this physical IP and it used to take this path. Due to some outage, let's say this device goes down or this device goes down, or let's say this cable goes down, your traffic is still pointed across to this, and since you have a network failure, a failover, let's say you have some network components that's failed, so your traffic will be still stuck. Okay, there is no way that this PC is going to take up the second path because you have no redundancy protocol in your network. Now as soon as you bring up HSRP, you're bringing up the virtual MAC address, you're bringing up the virtual IP address. So these are the two introduction that you're introducing in your network as soon as you bring up HSRP. Okay, and now what happens is your gateway is mapped to the virtual IP, and in case this goes down, you still have a redundancy path. And if you check it from the switch point of view, that's switch number 1. If I show you the MAC address table, so you can see the new HSRP MAC address has been enabled. And where is it pointing to? It's pointing to 0/1. So this HSRP is now pointing to this because the traffic is now leading in this direction. And also if you observe the HSRP MAC over on this switch, it will be pointed to these two units or these two interface. So that's how the decision is made over on a L2. Because let's say your interviewer ask you tricky question here. Let's say he asks you that since these are the computers which are not directly connected to the routers, so how is the decision being taken up that this is down and so let's forward it on the second path, right? It's because of the MAC address table that's getting built up on your switches. So the MAC address now says that the MAC address is now getting associated with the forwarding path, and that's how your packet is flowing across here. So that's a default behavior of HSRP. Now HSRP version 1 supports IPv4 only. Okay, so we also have one more version which is called as version 2, which supports both V4 and V6. Okay, and they are not backward compatible. Uh, that means let's say you have version 1 enabled here, and if you have version 2 enabled over on this side, now they both will not form a single group. They are different protocols now, or they are going to work in a different pattern. Okay, so they are not backward compatible. As in VTP, we have seen in VTP, when I have VTP2 and VTP3, basically the switch with VTP3 will send both the advertisement. So let's say in a case of VTP, virtual trunking protocol, if I have version 3 enabled here, and let's say I have the second switch which is configured with VTP version 2, and I had another switch with VTP version 3. Now this switch is going to advertise VTP packet version 3 for another VTP3 switch. But in this case, since this is a version 2, it's going to advertise the version 2 packets. Now VTP3 will be called as a backward compatible because it is going to take care of the version 2 as well as version 3. But in the case of HSRP, that's not going to happen. Okay, your version 2 is not backward compatible with version 1. So you need to have different groups, different VLANs and different concept. Okay, but yes, one thing is, let's say you have a switch, you can configure version 2, HSRP version 2 for VLAN 40, let's say over on this interface. But at the same time, you can have HSRP version 1 for VLAN 1. So that is possible. Okay, let's say your one switch has 2 or 3 VLANs, and as per the VLAN, you can change the behaviors. So that's going to work, but that's little complicated because you have to maintain the consistency throughout the network. So just go with one version instead of mismatch and leading to all confusions. So let's see how do we configure version 2 and what is the benefit of version 2. Okay, so let me first write down some key points of version 2. Why must someone go with version 2? So first point regards to the timers. Okay, your HSRP version 1 has by default 3 seconds for hello timer and 10 seconds for a hold timer or a dead timer. Okay, but in the case of version 2, they are going to be in milliseconds. Okay, much more faster than your version 1. So your version 2 has a millisecond support. The next thing about version 2 is with respect to group numbers. So over on version 1, it's going to support only 255 groups, whereas your V2 is going to support up to 4095. Okay, 0 to 495, and this is just 0 to 255. Now because of this support, your MAC address will also be a little different. Okay, So what is the default MAC address format for a version 1? It's okay, let me write it down. Okay, so it's going to be this format. Okay, and what is this? This is nothing but in a hexadecimal notation. So let's say for VLAN 10, what is the expected HSRP MAC address that's going to auto generate? It's going to be AC0A. Why did I get 0A? The reason is, if you just convert decimal to hexa, okay, your values are going to get converted to hexa and get stored in your MAC address. Okay, so that's how the MAC address is calculated. But in the case of V2, due to large number of groups supported, now this is not something which cannot be used. Okay, so in case of V2, it's in a range of this till this. Okay, so if I just write it, the complete MAC address, so your MAC address will be in this range. And let me tell you how do we calculate it, how do we calculate. So let's say from the last group point of view, if I just try to convert 4095 into hexa value, okay, so 4095 to hexa, so what is the value? It's going to be triple F. Now let's see that. Okay, so that's what I have stored here. So this is the last possible MAC address in case of HSRP version 2. And what is the first one going to be? It's going to be all triple zeros. Okay, so this is a range of MAC address in the case of version 2. The reason is you have a broad range of groups under V2, whereas in version 1 it's only 0 to 255. So let's see what is the hexa for 255. 255. Oh, it's going to be F and F. Okay, which is again which is just a 2 bits. Okay, so you can easily make use of this MAC address for your 255. Okay, just let me write it over here. So in the case of version 1, the MAC address is going to be ranging from 09F AC00 till ACFF. Okay, it's just a 2 bits. In the case of version 2, since we have a large number of groups supported, now what is the hexa of this going to be? It's going to be in the 3 bits. Okay, so that is why your MAC address will also be little different than your version 1. Fine, so that was regards to MAC address difference. So now let's check it out from the packet level. Okay, so in the case of HSRP version 1, the troubleshooting is little complicated. Okay, the troubleshooting is little complicated in case of version 1. The reason is they are going to carry the virtual MAC address. Whenever your packet is traveling from source to destination, the packet will contain a MAC address, and this MAC address will be of a source, or it will be of a HSRP MAC address. Okay, now this HSRP MAC address can be over on any interface. So let's say from the topology point of view, in the case of version 1 MAC address, the MAC address can be seen over here, and the same MAC address can also be seen over here. Now how are you going to troubleshoot that the issue is over on this or over on this, right? That is why the troubleshooting becomes little complicated in case of version 1. Whereas in the case of version 2, it's going to have a unique identifier which is called as identifier. Okay, and this identifier is going to carry one more MAC address, and that MAC address will be of the originator. So let's say the HSRP packet is from switch number 1. So the MAC address of this switch will be stored in this packet, in the Ethernet packet. And now we can easily troubleshoot. We can easily find out whether the issue was over here or it's over on the second switch. Okay. So from the troubleshooting point of view, version 2 is much more easier because it has a additional identifier component which will help us to understand where this packet is originating from. Okay, regarding the multicast address, in the case of okay, regarding the MAC address, multicast address. Okay, in the case of version 1, it's 224.0.0.2, but there is a overlapping protocol here. There is one more protocol which is called as Cisco Group Management Protocol, CGMP. Okay, now let's say when you have HSRP version 1 enabled, your this protocol cannot be functional. Now that's something related to the technical fault. Okay, it's not that we have done this or because of our network design or something. That's a glitch while launching this protocol. They have not taken the proper precaution, and because of that, this multicast address is overlapping with this protocol. So this protocol also has a similar multicast address. Now what happens is, if you are running on HSRP version 1, now this protocol will not work. So this has been taken care in HSRP version 2. The reason is the multicast now is this. If you just check out HSRP version 2 multicast address, now that's 224.0.0.102. Now in the case of version 2, you can parallelly run the CGMP protocol as well. Okay, so this is some protocol which is used for some other features, but when you have version 1 HSRP, now they both will not run at the same time. So that's one more reason why you should go to the version 2. Okay, so the MAC address was discussed. Okay, and let's say we are running on HSRP version 1 already, and if I just migrate to version 2, so I just need to put one extra command saying standby 1 version 2. Now this is going to enable version 2 for me. Now what happens is, in the back end, your re-election will happen. Okay, so let's say already the election was happened. It has gone through the states: init, listen, speak, and then it decides whether to be active or to be standby. Okay, so as soon as you change the version, these states are going to repeat. The reason is your virtual IP is getting changed, as well as your virtual MAC address is getting changed. You already know what is a MAC address behavior in case of version 1 and in case of version 2. Now they are a different MAC address, right? This is a totally different MAC address, and in the case of version 2, that's a different MAC address. So as soon as you change the version, your re-election will happen, and then it's going to find out which is active and which is standby. So the behavior is same in case of version 2. By default, preempts will not be enabled. You need to allow that. and the priority makes the decision. So the behavior is same as version 1, but there are a couple of differences or a additional point in case of version 2. Okay, regarding the packet structure, in the case of backward compatibility, okay, so we know that version 2 is not backward compatible with version 1. The reason is the packet structure of these two. Okay, in the case of version 1, the packet structure will only talk about protocol. So let's say the protocol is shown as HSRP, and it's going to show the version as 0. The 0 is nothing but version 1 in case of uh, HSRP. But in the case of version 2, the packet structure is not similar to version 1. Okay, it's going to have an additional component which is called as type. Okay, and this type is going to get integrated with your protocol and the version, and that's why they are not compatible, because these are easily detectable that this is a part of a HSRP version 2. Okay, because it is integrating type 1. So the packet in version 2 is called as TLV, type length value. Now this is because of this additional concept, your protocol whatever you're running is getting integrated with your TLV value, okay, the type value. In the case of version 1, you do not have those features or those things here. That's why they don't form backward compatible, because whenever a version 2 is sending the packet to version 1, it will be not able to recognize what is type, because that's not the behavior of version 1 packet. Version 1 is just a plain packet. Okay, fine. And regarding the similarity, both are going to run by default on plain text, but you have the support of MD5. Okay, they are going to have the similar kind of states, that is init, then the listening state, speak state, and then they decide who is active and who is standby. Okay, so these are few similarities, and those are few the differences between the two of them. So let me once go through this. Okay, the object tracking is also very similar. So object tracking is a feature where you can track your WAN phasing interface. So that's again similar thing in both version 1 and version 2. Okay, so on the notes you will find all the points discussed. So after the class, go back once again and just read it out. Or let's say you're preparing for interview after 2-3 months, this notes would be really helpful for you guys. You just can refer back. Okay, so I have tried to put some Wireshark capture as well, so that you understand what is what. Okay, so as I told you, in the case of HSRP version 2, it's going to have an additional field called as identifier. Okay, and because of this identifier field, the troubleshooting becomes easier. Okay, we just can track this MAC address, and we can find out which switch is having the issue. Okay, in the case of version 1, we don't have this identifier field in the packet uh, inside the packet. Okay, and similar way, the TLV that I was talking about, this is type length value which is seen in version 2, and it's going to add type 1 along with version 2. Okay, so that's a behavior in the case of version 2. In the case of version 1, we do not have TLV format. It's a plain format, which might be I have shown you in the last class. So in the version 1, there is nothing called type getting associated with the version. But in the case of HSRP version 2, the TLV, the type gets integrated or associated with group 2. So that's the reason why they are not backward compatible. Now if version 1 receives something, some format, some structure which is little different, now version 1 will not be able to identify the things. Okay, now what is TLV? It's nothing but it's storing data to facilitate quick parsing of the data. Type is T for type, L for length, and V for value. Okay, and what is what, it's all mentioned. What is the byte size, what is the ASCII format. Okay, so this is not required from CCNP point of view, but yes, if you know a little bit on TLV things, it's good, because this TLV will be repeated for some more protocols. Okay, let's say if you guys know what is CDP or LLDP, Cisco Discovery Protocol and Link Logical Discovery Protocol. So these protocol also work on TLV concept. Okay, so from that point of view, just have little bit of knowledge, and I think this is going to work. Okay, you don't need to know anything more than this. Okay, fine. Regarding the configuration, it's just a single command which should bring up your version 2. So let me quickly do that. Okay, so as of now, on which version am I running? I'm running on version 1. Okay, so how do I see that? So I have version 1, which is by default configured. Okay, and let's change the behavior. So on VLAN 1, let's say, let's give us an task. So let's say I have VLAN 1 and I have VLAN 40. So both of them are running as of now on version 1. So I'll make this on version 2, and let's keep this as version 1. That's possible. Okay, that's possible. But on the second side, you cannot have version 1 for VLAN 1. Now that is not possible. Okay, so you need to make it version 2 in the to have a consistency. Okay, in the case of 40, you still can have the second device on version 1, but you cannot bring version 2 there. Now that's a mismatch. Okay, so from the individual VLAN point of view or individual group point of view, you have to maintain the consistency. Okay, but between the groups, different groups, you can have your own version running up. You can have version, let's say you have version 1 running up over on VLAN 1, and similar way you want to have version 2 for VLAN 40. Now that's possible. Okay, but you just cannot have the other way around. So let's make version 1 as let's make a VLAN 1 on version 2. Okay, so I'll go to interface E 1.1. I call standby 1 version. Okay, so the command is standby version 2. Okay, and if you want, I will enable some debugs for HSRP. Okay, and from the second device point of view, let's go to interface 1.1. Okay, and let's make it standby version 2. Okay, so the reprocess or the restate election is been happening. They are going from the init state to listen state and speak, and then they are going to decide who is going to be the master and who is going to be the active and who is going to be the uh, standby. So show standby brief. Okay, so the second device was marked shut down. So let's bring up that. So this was shut down when I was demonstrating the packet flow. So I'll bring that up. So let's see what is the output now. Show standby brief. Okay, so it has taken the standby, and we also have this router acting as standby for VLAN 40. The reason is we have the highest priority configured on this router. Okay, from the version point of view, let's see show standby. Okay, So for show standby, I see that it's over on V2 now. Okay. In the case of VLAN 40, it's still on version 1. What is the MAC address now? So for a version 1, this is the MAC address. Now this is a hexadecimal format. Okay. So this is a hexadecimal format and it has taken up this. So basically your group is, the group number plays an important role to find the hexadecimal. So your group 1, if you just convert this decimal to hexa, it's going to be 0, 1. Let's see from version 2 point of view. So for version 2, that's, this is the MAC address. Okay, the MAC address is different for version 1 and version 2, and because of this reason only the re-election is happening, the init, listen, speak, active standby, because that's the time when the switch will do the MAC address formation. So if you see from the switch point of view, you will see both the MAC address getting associated. So you have your version 2 getting associated for the VLAN 1, and you also have a MAC address for VLAN 40. So that's how the traffic is getting switched. Okay, so this is how your MAC address is switching the traffic to the upstream routers. Okay, now let me open up the Wireshark and let me show you the difference between the version 1 and version 2 packets. So over on this interface, I should be able to see both the HSRP packets, right? So I have the version 1 as well as version 2. So in the case of version 1, if you see, I do not have an additional component called as identifier, but I open up version 2, I will have something called as identifier. Now what is this MAC address? So let's quickly troubleshoot. Okay, so I'm going to copy this first. Okay, I'm going to my switch and I'm just going to do some troubleshooting. So let's say this is a command to find this out, and it clearly says me that this is a MAC address that's associated with this interface. So let's find it out. Okay, so this is the interface 0/1 where this MAC ID is being learned. So if I check my diagram, okay, so I'm on Moscow 2, that's this switch, and where is that target MAC address being read? It's read on 0/1. Okay, so that's nothing but it's pointing me towards this person, right? So let's give it a try. Let's go to that router and let's find out what is the MAC address of that. So that took me very simple approach to figure it out, right? So let's quickly check that. First let me turn off the debugs there. Okay, now let's check what is the MAC address of 0/1. Okay, 1310. So is that the MAC address what I'm trying to find out, right? So this is 1310, right? So what is this MAC address? This is a MAC address of R20. Okay, and that MAC address is now associated with your HSRP v2 traffic, and that's how the troubleshooting becomes easier for someone over on version 2, because you have this additional field. In the case of version 1, you don't have this. You have to do some extra step to find out the culprit, but in case of version 2, it was pretty simple. The second thing what I was trying to tell you was the TLV concept. Okay, so time length value, this is how your packet is grouped in case of version 2. Okay, so your type 1 get associated with version 2. Now in the case of the version 1, you do not have any component called TLV. Okay, so you don't have that TLV component in the case of version 1. So that's how they both form different packets and they are not going to recognize each other. Okay, and what else? So from point of timers, they are running on milliseconds. So that's what we discussed. HSRP version 2 is going to support the timers in milliseconds, whereas HSRP version 1 is going to support just in seconds. So you see this 3 seconds and 10 seconds, but in the case of version 2, they are 3 milliseconds and 10 milliseconds. So that's one more difference here. Okay, fine. So we are good with version 2 and we are good with version 1. So if you need, I can test the connection, the packet flow. So let's see from PC10, okay, which is a part of VLAN 1. So let's see how is the traffic being sent. So we have reachability, that's good. Let's try out the trace route. Okay, so it's pointing to 10.1. That's nothing but this. So that's fine, okay, because it's an active device at the moment because of the highest priority. Now let's say I bring it down. So let's see how much time it takes for the device to recalculate and reconverge the traffic. So let me put this shut. Let's give a quick ping. Okay, so let me see what is not proper. Okay, so let's see the gateway first. So this is fine. It's pointing to the HSRP virtual IP address. So this has taken up the role. Okay, so this has taken up the active role, which is again good. So let's see why is ping not working. So this is the MAC address which is associated with 0/0. That is great. That's pointing to the second switch. Let's see the second switch. So second switch is now pointing it towards. Okay, so that's also fine. Okay, uh, ping may not be working, might be because of the GNS glitch. Let me give a try doing a trace route. So let's see where is the packet taken up. Okay, so from the packet flow I can see it's working fine. So the ping may not be working, might be because of the GNS glitch. So if you see now, as soon as I made this interface down, it started pointing to 10.2, and 10.2 is nothing but it's a interface IP of this the second router. Okay, so that's how we just see that the behavior of the packet flow is very similar with version 1 and version 2. Okay, fine. So before going to VRRP, I'll just unmute you guys. So if you guys have any doubt, please let me know, and then I'll go ahead with the version. I will go ahead with VRRP. So any doubt?
Hello?
Okay, so all is fine.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know, maybe you already explained it and I missed it. In case you have different VLAN, how you gonna, how the virtual IP gonna work, like the gateway?
Okay, so basically when you have multiple VLANs, let's take it as an example: VLAN 1, VLAN 2, VLAN 3, VLAN 4. Okay, now these each
Yeah.
VLAN will have its own gateway. So let's take it as an example: 192.168.1.0 is an gateway for VLAN 1. Similar way, this
Mhm.
is a gateway for VLAN 2. Let's say similar fashion, I have couple of networks and I have user
Okay.
placed under each network. Okay, so they form a different networks now. So
Okay.
I have 4 networks. Now in the case of HSRP, I have to enable on each one of them. So in this case I should have totally 4 instances of HSRP running. Okay, and how do I configure is I just go to the device, let's say on the router, and if you just see my in the case of my configuration, I made use of 2 sub interfaces, right? So this sub interface was responsible for the first network, and this first network is nothing but for VLAN 1 and its own layer 3 IP. Similar way, I had a second VLAN which is 40. So in that case, I am still running another instance of HSRP with VLAN 40 mapped to its gateway. Now similar way, let's say in your case, I have few more interfaces configured with its own VLAN, its own HSRP instance and its own IP address. Now each instances can have its own active and its own standby, which we can play around. So let's say if I have 2 boxes, 2 routers, I can make VLAN 1, 2, 3 to be active on this particular device. In the same way, let's say I have 10, 11 and 12 VLANs, I can make these VLANs or these HSRP instance to be active on the second box. So that's a load sharing concept of in HSRP. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so you just have to play with the priority command in order to make the active feature enabled on these VLANs. Okay, the commands remain
Understood.
almost the same with few IP minor changes. You need to enable preempts and you need to play around with priority. If in case you want to have these active on this box, so get the priority higher than 100. So let's say you can have 110 or 120 or whatever. Now automatically these VLANs are going to be acting as active on the first router. Okay, so that's how we can have multiple HSRP instance for multiple VLANs.
Okay.
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 Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So, any other doubts? Okay. So I take it as no, and let's go ahead with the next topic.
Sir,
Yes.
yeah, can we use any encryption?
Yes, we can use encryption. As I told, they are by default making use of plain text, but they are going to support MD5 as a authentication. Okay, it's very simple command. Let me just show you. If I go to one of the interface, let's say 0/1.1, I just have to bring up the authentication. So I have multiple authentication supported. I have a plain text, I have MD5. So that's how we have to enable this. But make sure whenever you enable this, on the other side also you have to set up this. Otherwise, there will be mismatch in the authentication. One side you have authentication enabled, but on the other side, if you might have missed it, now that would not bring up the neighborship.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, cool. So let's go back to the mute state and